When you're sitting in the darkness of uncertainty, waiting for something you've prayed for countless times, it's easy to feel abandoned. It's easy to question whether Allah has heard your du'as, whether your efforts matter, whether the promises you've read about in the Quran apply to you. You've been waiting so long. Months have turned into years. Your friends have moved forward, achieved what they wanted, built what they desired. But you're still here, still waiting, still hoping. Let me tell you something that might sound counterintuitive in a world obsessed with instant gratification. The delay you're experiencing is not a denial. It is not a rejection. It is not a sign that you failed or that Allah doesn't care about you. In fact, the delay is often the most profound expression of care, the most perfect manifestation of divine wisdom working on your behalf. We live in an age where everything moves fast. We tap a button and food arrives at our door. We swipe and instantly connect with thousands of people. We've become accustomed to immediate results, immediate feedback, immediate gratification. This conditioning has infiltrated our spiritual lives in dangerous ways. We make dua to Allah as if He were a vending machine. Insert prayer, receive results. When the result doesn't come in the time frame we've decided is reasonable, we assume the machine is broken. But Allah is not a machine. Allah is the most wise, the most merciful, the most perfect in all His actions. His delays are never mistakes. They are never oversights. They are never punishments disguised as slowness. When you truly understand this, not just intellectually but in the depths of your heart, everything changes. Your anxiety transforms. Your desperation gives way to a quiet, unshakable trust. Your question shifts from why is this taking so long to what is Allah preparing me for? Think about the story of Prophet Ibrahim. Peace be upon him. He was given the promise of a son. He waited. Years passed. Decades passed. He was an old man. His wife was an old woman. And still they waited. During this time of waiting, he wasn't inactive. He built the Kaaba. He spread the message of Tawheed. He became a leader of his people. When the child finally came, it wasn't just any child. It was Ismail, through whom an entire nation would descend, through whom the greatest pilgrimage in Islam would continue until the Day of Judgment. The delay wasn't a denial. The delay was Allah's way of ensuring that when the blessing arrived, Ibrahim had been refined, tested and prepared to be worthy of it. Or consider Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him. He was thrown into a well by his own brothers. He was sold into slavery. He was falsely accused and imprisoned. For years, over a decade, he remained in captivity. His father wept for him. His family suffered. But during those years of apparent abandonment, something extraordinary was happening. Yusuf was being educated. He was learning language. He was developing the character, the wisdom, the patience, and the integrity that would eventually make him the most trusted advisor to the king of Egypt. When he was finally released from prison, it wasn't just freedom, it was elevation, it was vindication. It was a position of unprecedented honor and influence. The delay had been the preparation for his purpose. This is the pattern you'll find throughout the Quran, throughout Islamic history, and if you look carefully throughout your own life. The things that took the longest to arrive were often the things that transformed you most completely. The blessings that required the most waiting were often the ones that brought the most profound joy. This isn't coincidence. This is the design of a creator who knows what you need better than you know it yourself. Let me be clear about something. Waiting is not easy. I'm not here to tell you that it is. Patience in Islamic tradition is not passive resignation. It's not about sitting around doing nothing while life happens to you. True sabr, true patience is active, engaged, and purposeful. It's about continuing to move forward, continuing to work, continuing to make effort, while simultaneously surrendering the timeline and the outcome to Allah. This is the balance that most people struggle with, and it's the balance that determines whether your waiting period becomes a period of spiritual growth or a period of spiritual decline. When you're waiting for something, you have a choice in how you interpret that waiting. You can see it as punishment, as a sign of your unworthiness, as evidence that your du'as aren't being answered. This interpretation will lead you into despair, resentment, and bitterness. Or you can see the waiting as an invitation to develop patience, an invitation to strengthen your trust in Allah, an invitation to focus on becoming the kind of person who is worthy of the blessing when it comes. This second interpretation doesn't make the waiting easier, but it transforms its meaning. It gives it purpose. It makes you active rather than passive in your own spiritual development. There's a principle in life that many people overlook. Timing determines everything. You could have the right thing at the wrong time and it becomes the wrong thing. You could have an opportunity arrive before you're ready for it, and instead of blessing, it becomes a burden or even a curse. I've seen people who achieved what they wanted too early and it destroyed them. They didn't have the maturity to handle it. They didn't have the character to sustain it. They didn't have the wisdom to protect it. Within a few years, everything fell apart. Meanwhile, I've seen other people wait for decades for their breakthrough. And when it finally came, they were so prepared, so developed, so refined by the waiting, that the blessing became a source of genuine good in their lives and in the lives of everyone around them. Allah's delay is often His protection. When you're praying for something, you're praying with incomplete information. You cannot see all the consequences of getting what you want immediately. You cannot see all the obstacles that would arise if you had it now. You cannot see the ways in which you would be unprepared to handle it. But Allah can see all of this. Allah sees the future as clearly as He sees the present. When He delays your blessing, He may be protecting you from something that isn't apparent to you yet. He may be waiting for you to develop a quality you need. He may be clearing away obstacles that you don't even know exist. He may be arranging circumstances and events that will make the eventual blessing far greater than what you originally asked for. I want you to think about this. Some of the greatest people in human history were forged in periods of waiting and difficulty. Think about how long the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, preached in Mecca before the Hijrah. For 13 years, he faced ridicule, mockery, violence, and rejection. During these 13 years, when the message seemed to be spreading slowly, if at all, the Prophet was being refined, his followers were being tested and strengthened. The foundation of the Ummah was being built in the hearts of the believers. When the migration finally happened, when the Islamic State was finally established, it wasn't an accident or a stroke of luck. It was the result of 13 years of preparation, of trial, of steadfastness. The waiting period is where your faith is tested. This is where you discover whether you truly believe in Allah or whether you only believe in the results you can see. This is where the difference between true believers and those who merely claim belief becomes apparent. The Quran tells us that those who are patient and those who trust in Allah will be rewarded. But patience isn't rewarded because it's pleasant. It's rewarded because it's difficult. It's rewarded because in your patience, you are expressing the deepest form of trust. You're saying without words, I believe that you know better than I do. I believe that your timing is perfect. I believe that you will not neglect me. One of the most dangerous things you can do during a period of waiting is to compare your timeline to someone else's. Social media has made this comparison more toxic than ever before. You see people announcing their promotions, their engagements, their new homes, their successful businesses, and there you are still waiting for the thing you've been praying for. The comparison gnaws at you. It whispers to you that you're falling behind, that you're not good enough, that everyone else is blessed and you're not. This comparison is a thief. It steals your peace. It steals your gratitude. It steals your perspective. But here's the truth. You don't see the full story of anyone else's journey. You see the announcement, the celebration, the finished product. You don't see the years of effort. You don't see the failures. You don't see the prayers. You don't see the sleepless night. You don't see the moments of doubt. You don't see the people who received what they wanted at the wrong time and it became a source of regret. You don't see the blessings that came to you that you didn't recognize because they didn't come in the package you expected. Most importantly, you don't see Allah's plan for their lives and how it differs from His plan for yours. Your life is not a race. Your success is not determined by how quickly you achieve milestones. Your worth is not measured by how your timeline compares to others. You have your own journey, your own path, your own purpose. That purpose might require longer wait than someone else's. That purpose might require years of preparation that aren't visible to the outside world. That's not a failure on your part. That's precisely how it's supposed to be. I want to talk about the distinction between making dua and making demand. In our relationship with Allah, there's a huge difference between asking humbly and demanding as if we're owed something. When you ask Allah for something with true humility, when you recognize that He owes you nothing and that everything is a gift from Him, your entire experience of waiting changes. You're no longer bitter that you haven't received what you think you deserve. You're grateful for what you have. You're at peace with the timeline because you trust the one who set it. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us to make dua with specific parameters. You make your request clear. You ask sincerely. You believe that Allah can give it, but then you submit to His will. You accept that He might say yes, He might say no, or He might give you something better. This isn't weakness. This is the highest form of strength. This is the wisdom to recognize that your perspective is limited and His is infinite. When you're in the middle of waiting, it's hard to see the good in it. It's hard to trust that there's a reason. Your emotions are real. Your disappointment is valid. Your frustration is understandable. But your emotions are not the truth. Your feelings about the timeline do not determine the reality of Allah's wisdom. You can feel discouraged and still choose to trust. You can feel anxious and still choose to submit. You can feel lonely in your waiting and still know that Allah is with you. These aren't contradictions. This is the reality of being human while trying to live according to divine guidance. There's a concept in Islamic tradition called Tawakkul, reliance upon Allah. This doesn't mean you stop making effort. This doesn't mean you sit at home and wait for things to happen. Tawakkul means you do everything within your capacity. You make every effort you can. You seek knowledge and skills and opportunities with full commitment, and then you place your trust in Allah for the results. You tie your camel, as the hadith teaches, and then you trust in Allah. You do your part with full diligence, and you trust Allah to do His part with perfect wisdom. Many people fail in their waiting because they either do too much or too little. Some people become so anxious, so obsessed with the outcome, that they neglect their current responsibilities and relationships. They spend all their energy trying to force the timeline, trying to make things happen faster, trying to manipulate circumstances. This desperation often has the opposite effect. It pushes people away. It makes you less attractive as a partner, less credible as a professional, less trustworthy as a friend. Your desperation becomes the obstacle to what you're waiting for. Others become so passive that they give up trying altogether. They stop making effort. They stop learning. They stop growing. They become stagnant, waiting for something that will never come because they've stopped doing their part. This is equally destructive. The waiting period is not a time to freeze your life. It's a time to develop yourself in every possible way. The right approach is to be actively engaged in your life, to be continuously improving yourself, to be making effort and seeking opportunities, all while maintaining an inner calm about the timeline. You work as if everything depends on you, and you trust as if everything depends on Allah. This balance is difficult to maintain, but it's the path that leads to both worldly success and spiritual elevation. Let me tell you about the concept of barakah, blessing. Sometimes what appears to be a delay is actually an opportunity for barakah to increase in your life in ways you didn't anticipate. When you wait with patience, when you use the time to develop yourself, when you maintain your connection with Allah during the difficulty, something shifts. Your character becomes stronger, your wisdom deepens, your compassion increases, your understanding of life becomes more nuanced. These developments might not be the specific blessing you were waiting for, but they are blessings nonetheless. Are often more valuable than what you originally prayed for, because they transform who you are at your core. I've met people who spent years waiting for a particular outcome. When it finally came, they were almost surprised by how little it mattered compared to who they had become during the wait. The waiting had changed them. It had made them into people of substance, people of character, people with depth. This transformation was worth more than the original blessing. This is a secret that many people never discover because they give up before they reach this point. There's also the reality that sometimes what you're waiting for changes form by the time it arrives. You might be waiting for a specific job and a different job comes along that's actually better. You might be waiting for a specific person to marry and someone else enters your life who's a better match. You might be waiting for a specific outcome and something unexpected happens that serves the same purpose in a better way. The delay isn't denying you what you want. It's transforming it into something better. The rigidity about the exact form the blessing should take might cause you to miss the blessing when it comes in a different package. This requires flexibility. This requires the willingness to recognize blessings even when they don't look exactly like you imagined. This requires the humility to acknowledge that what you thought you wanted might not have been what you actually needed. The delay often provides the clarity to see this difference. I want to address something that often goes unsaid in these conversations. The waiting can be genuinely painful. The delay can involve real loss. Sometimes what you're waiting for doesn't come in your lifetime. Sometimes you see others receive what you prayed for while you never. This is the harshest reality of faith. It's the test that separates those who believe only when things go well from those whose belief is rooted in something deeper. The Quran acknowledges this difficulty. It doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't tell you that if you have enough faith, everything will work out exactly as you want. Instead, it tells you about people who waited their whole lives and never saw the fulfillment of their dreams in this world, but their reward was not denied. It was delayed until the afterlife, where everything will be made clear, where every injustice will be corrected, where every patient soul will be honored. This perspective doesn't make the current pain disappear, but it contextualizes it. Your life is not just about this world. Your success is not just measured in visible outcomes in this lifetime. Your worth is not determined by whether you got what you prayed for on earth. You are a soul having a human experience, and this experience is temporary. The eternal consequences of how you handle the temporary difficulties are what truly matter. At the same time, you should know that this doesn't mean you should accept injustice or stop trying to improve your circumstance. There's a difference between patient submission to what you cannot control and passive acceptance of what you can change. You should fight for your rights. You should pursue your dreams. You should take action toward your goal, but you should do so with the understanding that the ultimate outcome is in Allah's hands, not yours. This is the mature faith. This is the faith that doesn't collapse when circumstances don't cooperate. This is the faith that says, I will do everything I can and I will trust Allah with what I cannot control. This is the faith that transforms waiting from a painful experience into a meaningful one. Let me share this reality with you. The people who have the greatest impact on the world, the people who are most remembered, the people whose lives seem most meaningful, are almost always people who had to wait for their breakthrough. They had to struggle, persist through disappointment. They had to keep going when it seemed pointless. Their delay wasn't a barrier to their significance. It was the foundation of it. The struggle gave them depth. The difficulty gave them wisdom. The waiting gave them humility. That these qualities made their eventual contribution far greater than if they had achieved success easily and quickly. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. The delay is the preparation. The difficulty is the education. The waiting is the training ground where you're developing the character and strength you'll need for what comes next. Trust this process. Trust that even when you can't see how the current circumstances could possibly lead to your blessing, there's a logic to it that will become clear eventually. One more thing I want to emphasize: during your period of waiting, maintain your connection with Allah. This is not just advice, this is survive the connection with Allah through prayer, through reading the Quran, through remembrance. This is what keeps you sane when the external circumstances seem insane. This is what keeps you hopeful when the situation seems hopeless. This is what reminds you of your purpose when you're tempted to give up. Make dua regularly, but don't let your duas become desperate begging. Let them be conversations with your Lord. Tell Him what you want, but also listen. Listen in the quiet moments. Listen for the whispers of guidance. Listen for the subtle redirections that might be nudging you toward a better path. Sometimes the answer to your prayer comes not as the exact thing you asked for, but as a shift in your heart that makes you realize you didn't want what you were praying for in the first place. Your delay is not denial. Your waiting is not worthless. Your struggle is not meaningless. Everything that's happening right now, in this moment, as you read this and reflect on your own situation, is part of a larger design that's working toward your ultimate good. Some of this good will manifest in this life. Some of it might manifest only in the next life, but none of it is wasted. None of it is forgotten. None of it will go unrewarded. The timing of Allah is perfect, not because it matches your timeline, not because it feels right in the moment, but because it's orchestrated by the one who knows the past, the present and the future, who knows every consequence of every event, who can see the connections between things that appear completely unrelated, whose wisdom is infinite and whose mercy is boundless. So wait, but wait active, wait hopefully, wait with the knowledge that the delay is not denial, and when the blessing finally comes, and it will come in some form at some time, you'll understand why you had to wait. You'll see how the delay was actually a gift. You'll recognize that everything that seemed pointless was actually essential, and you'll be grateful, not just for what you received, but for the person you became while you were waiting for